So when I was getting my MBA, everything was case studies, right? Dive into what some company did or didn't do, the decisions that they made, the actions that they took, and then learn from it, right? Learn from it. So let's dive into Caitlin's story and see what you can learn from what it was that she achieved, right? Tripling her income, then doubling her income, right? So I had put together this nice client journey for a talk that I had given. I was going to give the talk. I was going to invite people to an event I was hosting. I was going to make them an offer. Caitlin, like I had the whole process together. Caitlin jumped the line. Caitlin jumped the line. There was something about something that I said that made her just reach out to me. She booked the first available spot on my calendar for after the talk that I gave. And I showed up ready to go through more of my process, and she was like, help me, how do we do this? She was just ready to go. So this drive and this willingness to be open and to take action really ended up being the reason that she's so successful, regardless of what might be happening around her. So Caitlin's an artist. She's an artist. She's an amazing artist. But when I met her, Caitlin was very new at business. And you can stick around and hear more of this story after I do my case study for you. And she'll tell you her story in her own words. But basically, Caitlin was a perfect example of being really good at what the business does for a living, and yet not knowing how to grow a business. Because those two things don't actually have anything to do with each other. And that was where Caitlin was stuck. The things, though, that Caitlin had going in her favor was, number one, she knew that she didn't know how to grow a business. She knew that. And she also knew, and she wanted to know how, but she was also very willing to be massively uncomfortable, knowing that it was going to be a learning process. She knew going in that this is a learning process, and she was just completely willing to be there for it. And as I've said, I work at the intersection where what you need to do meets who you need to be to do it. Because the plan doesn't matter if you can't do the plan. So in Caitlin's case, it wouldn't have helped her if all we did was to sit down and create this big business plan that ultimately led to a $500,000 business. It wouldn't have helped her because it was too big a leap. It was too big a leap. We had to create a step-by-step process for her that met her where she was and took her on her own journey of becoming a business owner. Not overwhelming her with do this, which makes you feel more frustrated than when you started, because you can't just do this and do this. And this is why so many what I call insta tactics don't work for people. Is if you or your business aren't ready for the tactic, it won't work. It won't work. I've done it, but they don't work because you end up being more disappointed, right? You get more disappointment and less money because the thing that looks like it works for everybody else didn't work for you, right? It didn't work for us. That's why we don't like that approach. So what did we do? We started with the what do we need to do side of the business. We always start with what do we need to do side of the business. So number one, we started out with better packaging and better pricing of what it was she was offering. What it included, how it was described, what it cost, right? We created a really solid offer that she was excited about. So she didn't have to recreate the wheel. She could just get really excited about this thing. Very nicely put together. It was a great profit margin for her, and she could go out into the world with that. Number two, we created a step-by-step sales process that she was able to use that let her embrace her authenticity, her friendliness, and help move people from meeting them to determining if they were prospects, and if they were, to then having a sales conversation. We created a step-by-step process that was perfect for her and how she liked to interact with people and not feel that she was doing something she didn't want to be doing. And she became a master at this process. She became an absolute master at this process. And it wasn't hard for her to master it because it was aligned with who she is. Number 3, we looked at what else she could be offering by way of services, so that she didn't have a situation where everybody either said yes to her or no to her. We had a few different things that she could offer. And we were able to test them out in the marketplace and test out the messaging around them, and not create a yes or no situation, but created a 1, 2, or 3 situation, which opened up a lot more prospects for her, right? And number 4, we also really up-leveled who she was talking to, who she was meeting, and who she was looking to work with, which ultimately changed how she viewed what she was doing for clients. So under the what did we need to do, that's where we focused. Which leads us to the very, very important, who did she need to be to do it? Because what we said, the plan doesn't matter if you can't do the plan. So that brought us to, who did she need to be in order to make this all happen? Caitlin's level of resilience and persistence are unmatched. Amazing. Growing a business is not a straight line. I wish it can't tell you how much I wish it were. It's not a straight line. Things work. Things didn't work. She had good days. She had bad days. But she just kept going. She just kept trying. And the biggest piece to this is that she didn't fall victim in any of it to the blame mode. After every challenge, she picked herself up, she dusted herself off, she learned what she needed to learn, and she grew from it. That meant that no matter what the challenge was, she always came out ahead. Isn't that what we all want? That no matter what happens, we always come out ahead? And I'm going to tell you, put your safety bubble on. I say this, put your safety bubble on, because I'm going to be really direct with you for a minute, because I don't think sugarcoating does you any good on this. I see this a lot in the world. I see this a lot in the world. People hit a bump and they give up. They hit a bump and they give up. They try something a couple of times and they tell themselves that they tried and they stop. And they fall into blaming all sorts of things for the fact that they didn't get what they wanted when they wanted it. And ultimately, what that does is it creates a barrier. It's not so much that in the moment we were miserable and we were, woe is me. Okay, fine. In the moment, no. But the worst part about it is it creates this absolute barrier to ever making it happen for you. That's what's heartbreaking. That's what's heartbreaking. More than any external circumstance, what's heartbreaking is this is what stops people from reaching their goals and their dreams, and it's completely internal. It's completely internal. We've got to learn how to tap into that resilience and tap into that persistence. And Caitlin just embodies that. The other thing that she did, the other thing that was amazing, is Caitlin embraced a full identity shift. Again, not easy. Everything we do, the choices that we make, the things that we do are driven by who we think we are. And Caitlin was able to embrace a full identity shift. And this is a really big deal, because if we see ourselves as, hey, I'm over here if you need a logo, or if you need a bookkeeper, or if you need a photographer, fill in the blank, whatever it is, whatever service you provide. If that's how we see ourselves, as I'm over here when you need me, we never get to be to that place where we're in charge of our own destiny. But if you embrace a more powerful identity, if you embrace being a thought leader, if you embrace being a business owner, if you embrace being a professional, if you embrace being a guide, then from that place, we become the confident solution that clients are looking for. That's where our own magic gets created. And Caitlin, she knew she was a good artist, and she knew she really liked doing it. She just needed to get her business owner confidence up and running. So what were Caitlin's results? What were her results? She tripled her income. She left her part-time job. And then she doubled her income again, if I'm getting the numbers correctly. But even more important, because I get it, the money's fun. Money's fun. But even more importantly, she expanded herself as a leader and as an entrepreneur. She's able now to be a greater service to her clients and stay true to herself at the same time. And this is what lays the groundwork for her to decide what her future successes are, instead of thinking she has no control over it. Like, that's what we want, isn't it? To create a situation where we feel we have control over our circumstances. She holds workshops. She speaks on stages about branding strategy. She's held a position on the city of Chandler, Arizona's art commission. Those were not, when we started working, those weren't how she saw herself. So for you, for your case study reflection questions on this, to help you learn and give you some tangible takeaways from Caitlin's experience. Let's see. How are you doing with your business building skills? How are you doing with your business building skills? Have you put any time, money, energy, effort, all of the resources have you put any of those into becoming the business owner you need to be? Or ask yourself, are you stuck? Because this is a very common spot to get stuck in. Are you stuck where we get stuck at thinking, I'm good at what the business does. I'm good at it. So that will make it work. And being good at it, unfortunately, is not always enough to make the business work. So ask yourself, what resources have you put into learning the business side skills? Number 2, how do you see yourself, right? How do you see yourself? How does your identity align with or doesn't align with what you say you want to accomplish? Because your identity, I mentioned it, your identity is going to fuel your decisions and your behavior and your energy and everything. Does your identity align with where you say you want to be? Not with where you are now. We know your identity aligns with that because that's where you are. But does your identity align with where you want to ultimately get? And number 3, we'll say this one requires an honest conversation with yourself. And having a brutally honest conversation with yourself is one of the hardest things you can do. It's one of the hardest things you can do. So for those of you who are willing to step into that, I commend you, because that's not easy. It's not always easy. How is your resilience doing? How is your persistence doing? Are you falling victim in any way? And this is very human, by the way. So this isn't, oh, you're wrong or bad for doing this. This is human. Welcome to being human. How are you falling victim to blaming anything or anyone outside of yourself for what's going on? And if so, it's fine. We all do it. We all do this. But can you catch it? Can you catch it and change it? If insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, when you combine learning the skills you need to cultivate the resilience and persistence and business, when you combine those 3 things, that's where you get the results that what you want. When you combine learning the skills it takes to build the business with learning how to develop and improve your resilience and persistence, that's where you get to have the results you want. So hang out with me for a bit more. You can hear Caitlin's story in her own words. And if you are looking to shift your identity in a way that will allow you to create your future results and put a plan together that allows you to make it happen, reach out. I'd love to chat and see how we can make that happen for you. Hey, I am so excited to introduce everyone to Caitlin Penny, the brilliance, the thought, the founder, all behind Copper Theory Creative, and wanted to thank you for spending some time with me to help people understand what it is that the Ready to Conquer program can do for them, because it's one thing for me to say it, but I'm always interested in getting a client's perspective, because I think that better relates to what other people might be thinking or wondering and wanting. So thank you so much for spending some time with me. Why don't you take a second to introduce yourself to everybody, what it is and the amazing things that you do?
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's like we've done this before or something. My name's Caitlin Penny. I am the CEO of Copper Theory Creative. We are a full service branding and marketing agency, and I am the brand expert.
Yes, you are. Awesome. So let's just dive into it, because I love hearing you say that, because 18 months ago, that was so not what you said. So tell us a little bit about where you were when we met, like what was going on in your business and in your life, and what were you looking for?
I've owned my business since 2016. I've been a one-man show for a very long time, but I quit my day job because it's not what I wanted to do anymore. And I felt that I was plateauing as a business. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't have sales expertise and or speaking expertise at the time. I knew I needed to make a change in order to make it sustainable. And then I was also hiding under a pillow.
Well, we all been there. We've all been there, right? The way that I describe that is sometimes a part-time job at Target for a couple months with a discount sounds like a really good idea, right? We've all been there.
Every once
We've
in a
all been
while.
there.
Yeah.
Just for a little while, just for a little while. So when you started with me, let's do this. What were you worried about?
Oof. I was worried about, there was no plan B. And so I was worried about what the rest of my life would look like if I couldn't make this work.
That
Not to get super deep or anything.
But it's true. I think that's a fear that a lot of people have. Now, you had, what if I can't get this to work? You had it because there was no plan B. Other people have it for a variety of different reasons, right? One of the reasons I had with my last business of what if I didn't get it to work was I didn't want to be, I left this big fancy corporate job, right, to do my own thing. And I didn't want to be embarrassed and have these people I know from my fancy job at corporate, what if it didn't work, right? So I think there's a variety of reasons behind it, but it's very common to have that fear. What if
I definitely had to prove it? Yep, I definitely had to
what
prove
if I
it.
can't figure it out? So tell me and tell everybody the tactics that we worked on for you. We did two things, right? There's two sides to growing a business. There's two sides to entrepreneurship, the things you have to do, and then the person you have to be in order to do them. So from a tactical side, we started out with creating packages, and we created a pricing, a growth. I don't know. We should title that something. I mean, we have embraced this with like nothing I've ever seen before. We came up with a strategy for you to raise your prices without overwhelm, fear, or feeling bad about yourself in the process.
Right. So I think I was selling a logo for $600 2 years ago, about less than 2 years ago, I think. And we decided to raise the cost every 3 times I sold that package specifically. And definitely had to do with how comfortable I was versus the cost of how much it's being raised. But I'm still sticking to it. Still works.
It still works. And what I love about it was so many people make the mistake of saying, I'll raise my rates in a certain period of time. But if you haven't sold anything in that time, that doesn't really work. And sometimes you raised it $20 and sometimes you raised it $500, but not only did your prices increase, but your services, right? The way that you deliver your services, even when you were still just focused on the logo packages, the way that you delivered your services. And what I love is now you're selling that package, right? That ultimately the same package for more than 3 times what you were selling it for 18 months ago, but you sell more of them now.
I do. I do. It was very hard for me to make a sale back then. And now I feel comfortable raising the price. It's, dare I say, easy for me.
It gets easy. It doesn't start easy. It gets easy.
And we also improve the process too, in which we work with clients. I don't know if you want me to go into specific details, but
Sure.
there were definitely steps in the process. So this package is called the Amplify Your Brand logo package. It's all about brand identity. And there's a few different steps as far as the process goes, including an interview series. Just an interview. We won't go as far as series yet.
But you don't need a series anymore because you
No,
got real good at it.
And the reason I did this was because I like taking a personal approach with my clients. I mean, literally my tagline is go change the world in your own way. So I want to make sure that they are truly making a difference with branding and online optimization. So there were a few parts within the process that weren't too personalized, such as I would send them the questionnaire and expect them to fill it out and they should email me back. I don't know about you, but it's not something that anybody really wants to do. And I think it started out with an eye roll instead of being excited. And so we changed that quickly and we did it. We now do it in person. I record the conversations and that's how I get my takeaways, but it also turns now into social media and web content for them. So it's a plus. And even the brand reveals, there's no more emailing anything. Everything is in person. Everything is, let's talk about it. Let's do the revisions. And then I do a brand reveal in person with you, as opposed to, here's proof two of the logo. Please respond with revisions or approval. That's not so personal.
So you have a client fulfillment customer service model that fits more with your persona, fits more with higher rates,
Mhm,
right? It's much
mhm,
easier to raise your rates when you know you're delivering a high touch service.
mhm.
And I think in the beginning, if we talk about who you need to be in order to do it, there was some fear and lack of confidence where you were almost, and this is very common, right? This is what I see a
Mhm.
lot of people do. You were creating ways to not interact with people just in case they weren't happy.
And that I think was more obvious to them than it was to me at the time. And now that I'm more confident about it, it's 100% success rate at this point. So it
Someone will
works.
eventually get mad at you. This is normal. That's fine.
That's fine, but it's not so much getting mad at me. It's just being able to communicate in person what changes need to be made. Hence the reason why I have your face on Zoom, because the first impression or the first facial expression you make is a huge giveaway as to your impression of what we just
Right.
designed. You can't
Exactly.
hide it. And so an email, you can take the time to respond, you can hate it and not tell me. And then also you only get a certain amount of revisions because you see my face so often.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love it. So we raised your rates. We gave you a model to follow to do it. You improved, we came up with improved processes that created a higher touch, which makes you happier. And when you're happier as the business owner, you
Mhm.
can really get excited about
Right.
what you're
Yeah.
doing, which then makes it easier to sell. So let's talk a little bit though about what you've embraced in terms of marketing and finding new clients. So you became a networking machine.
Yeah.
We really came up with a process for you to network, meet new people, and very comfortably and organically go from networking to sales without pitchy or pressury energy.
Absolutely. So I attend about 10 networking events a month. Call me crazy, but it works. I like
Worked
talking to
for me.
people.
I used to do the same thing.
It's the personal aspect. If I can know things about you, if I can know your why and the purpose behind why you're doing what you do, it's a lot easier for me to make that vision come to life. So when I network, on one hand, I'm very intentional about it. I show up to a networking event. Very often, I'll show up blindly to a networking event and not know anyone. Also, because I just moved to a new area, but I just walked in and was like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Is this the networking event?" And everyone's come on in, and it works if you're going to be open. So where there's a network, so are you. And now I make sure that I get 3 people on my calendar before I leave. I collect business cards. I follow up within 48 hours. And I also don't pitch them. I'll tell them what I do. I usually ask them how they changed the world today, as opposed to, do you need a new logo?
Oh, I love it. Exactly. I mean, you're doing all the things that we've been talking about. And what I really like is you stuck with it until it became your natural way of doing things. Because this was not your natural way of doing things
Nope.
when we started.
I don't know what my natural way of doing things was.
It was a natural way of, I'm not sure what to do, but if you like me, or if you'll talk to me, we all get nervous in the beginning. And now
Right.
you're showing up as the thought leader that you are, right? So I sum this up as we've really created a thought leader marketing effort for you.
Mhm. Okay.
And you've since added to that by speaking. If we
Right.
think about it, that's where I met you. I spoke at an event. That's where I met you. If that day, you were like, sign me up that day. If that day I would have said to you, we're going to have you doing this, you probably would have run screaming from me.
Probably like, that's nice. And then walk the opposite direction.
And here you are, right? Embracing, and all these things go together when you learn how to have a comfortable sales conversation, when you learn you're in a business that often requires people want proposals, when you learn how to deliver a proposal to keep communication open, when you learn how to network and market in a way that makes connections, then you just get more and more willing to try the next thing.
I've also structured it differently as well, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't ask people how I can help them. I mean, I do, but not what service can I sell you kind
Right.
of way. I truly am asking, who would you like to be connected with? Who do you want to who do you want as a new client? How can I actually help you? What networking events do you want to attend? Do you want to know which ones I go to? And that's a pretty popular question. And then also I ask them what their goals are, because I have different series, or I keep saying series, but I have different meetings that you can book on my calendar. And based on which one you pick, usually tells me why we're there. So if it's a discovery call, I'm not going to be like, so do you want to learn about all my services today? I'm just going to ask you what you do, about yourself, and what your goals are. And then I just let it happen as far as sales go.
What did you have to do in terms of your thought processes and how you just thought about yourself to get from the place when we met, which was the panic, overwhelm, how do I even do this,
Mhm.
to you're an extremely confident marketing and salesperson at this point. Like
It
you
wasn't
ask,
always like that.
right, you ask me when you have questions now, you ask me very specific questions of what's a better way to do XYZ, as
Mhm.
opposed to 18 months ago when it was like, oh my
I don't
God,
know
I
what to
don't
do.
even know. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So if for people listening who see themselves where you were 18 months ago, in
Mhm.
reaction mode, overwhelmed, there's no plan B, what did you do or what did we do, or what did I say, or what did you pick up on that helped you switch the way that you think about all of it?
First off, I've realized that I'm a business owner. I'm the CEO. I'm not a freelance designer
Yes.
anymore. And that's the way, I think that was the
Yeah.
clearest way to say what my mindset was about back then. Now it's how I can improve the situation that they're in, how I can elevate their brand to help them go be the expert in the field that they were meant to be, so they
It's
can
all
change the
about
world.
service. You switched from
Right.
how can I sell this $400 thing to
Mhm.
someone to how can I have the biggest impact on the most amount of people?
And with the way we watching being in your coaching program, watching how you interact with people was super helpful.
Mm.
It doesn't always have to be problem solution, because sometimes you don't know what the problem is or what the solution is. And so you can't I'm super analytical, so it was hard for me to just calm down and think about, okay, why that's why I asked what their goals are, because that helps me see where they're at.
Mhm.
And I think you have a similar approach to that. And then you let them talk instead of just controlling the situation. We're both very like strong
Right. We could
personalities,
talk
but
forever, you and I. This would not be a problem.
we can keep recording for 8 more hours
Right.
probably. But
Easily.
it really came down to letting them express what they wanted to share. And I'm a person that likes strategies and systems. Am I good at building them? No. But you gave me a sales 6-step process. Forgive me if it's not 6 steps, but a process in order to follow when I'm having a sales conversation. But it was more so, what are they saying? And then what does that mean as far as how you can help them? So if I know that I'm not on social media, okay, cool. That's a service that I can offer. I see you on social media and you're very consistent and I'm not, and I want to make sales off of it. Okay, you probably need a social media strategy plan then.
Exactly. And
Kinda
I
let
love
themselves
that.
talk themselves into it.
Let people right through conversation. People love to buy things they don't like to be sold to. And so through
It has to be their
conversation, how do you
idea.
help them realize what they want?
Mhm.
So a more recent big change for you that I feel like you never saw coming and you're having a how did I get here moment, which I love,
I am.
is, and again, I just want to congratulate you because I just don't, the fact that this took 18 months, and I understand you had your business before that, and you
Mhm.
have the skills. That's the other thing. You have the skills to back this up. There's no way, I'm certainly not the person to teach graphic design and artwork to anybody. I appreciate it. I have zero skills. So you have the skills to back it up, and you did have some experience, but literally in 18 months, you have gone from a freelance graphic designer, great way to describe that, who started out selling things in the 4 or 5, maybe $600 range. And now you are basically you have an agency.
I do. Yeah, it's I think it was the one thing that happened that this whole time that we've been working together, I was like, oh my God, I didn't tell Erin. And then one day I was like, we just decided to be full service branding and marketing. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think that because the other thing that you have done so well, the couple things that I will tell you from a coaching perspective that you have done so amazing and proof that it works. You embrace the process. You are so involved. You show up to 95% of the meetings, and if you're not there, there's a really good reason, right? You show up, you ask questions, you get involved. So you immersed yourself in the process. You have fully embraced be scared and do it anyway.
Speaking. I
Be
didn't
scared
speak
and do it
until last week.
anyway, right? And the whole idea of saying yes.
I'm not a one-man show anymore, and I never wanted to be a no person. So I realized that there was, I can offer graphic design and branding services, but then there was a client journey that I realized a lot of my clients followed the same path.
Right.
So then I just decided to be a yes woman instead, and then acquired partners to fill in all of those blanks. Is pretty much how it happened, because I would have someone, okay, we're done with the logo.
Now what?
And they would just be like, go find somewhere else to get a web designer, and then ask me, and then I would have to say no. And I was also trying to do all the things at the same time because I didn't want to say no. But do I like web design? Do I like being a web designer? No. Do I know how to do it? Yes. But should I be doing it? No. There's 4 things that I am doing now. It's networking, speaking, sales, and design.
Exactly.
And even now I'm about to hire a graphic designer.
And so what you did was you didn't overcomplicate things. The questions that you usually ask me come up when you start to overcomplicate things. Because it's so funny when I answer you, now that I think about it, your first
Yeah.
comment usually is, oh, if it's just that simple, okay. But the way you've grown your business is by finding the most direct path to the solution. if you were to have come to me and said, Erin, I want to create a marketing agency, I'm going to go out and hire all these people, I would have been like, no.
Okay.
But what you did that worked so well, that was such a more direct route to the outcome you wanted, was you cultivated relationships with high quality people who had complementary services to yours. And so it became a very natural next step to formalize that relationship.
I also worked with or for these people in the past 3 years in some
Exactly.
way or form. So it was really easy, even picking the right partners. There was trial and error, trust me. But when I found the right ones, I could feel that they were the right ones.
Right. And so it was a more direct path, a more easier inspired action path to the outcome.
And in the beginning, I did not have that as a plan. I didn't really have a plan, to be honest with you. And so we've come a long way. Tripled income, created
Tripled your income in
programs,
18 months.
and now we're on track to double it this year again. Yeah. So putting together packages, raising prices, teaching me how to do sales, getting better at networking, speaking on stage, literally 30 days of Facebook Live. Please just say yes to Erin. Okay, because
I remember that. That's where we
I
started.
wanted to
30
die.
days.
I wanted to die. But she was right. By day 4, it was fine. Was it perfect? No, but I was at least comfortable, and I got COVID during it. So
You had COVID.
I still
and you
did
were on
it.
vacation.
Yeah. And so now speaking is one of the most revenue generating things in my business. And I'm doing it again tomorrow.
And you're not as panicked. I say this to people all the time. The money's great. The emotional freedom is invaluable.
Right. I noticed that more often in the past, I would say 6 months than anything else, give or take, just because it was literally one day I just woke up and was like, oh, this isn't so bad. I've got it figured out finally. I just had to follow the process. And like I said, we're pretty similar in that sense. So it worked for me. And I just said yes to you also, instead of being like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. I'll talk to you later.
Right.
You know how that goes.
And now you're at the point where what I love is the things that don't work are just something that has to be figured out, as opposed to, oh my God, how do I figure this all out?
We had a lot going on in the beginning, and I put together a package, and after you helped me put it together, it was just one of the packages. After 6 months, I think it was like, okay, Erin, this is not, I've literally
I
made
don't know
zero.
that we didn't wait that long, but yeah, we did try something that
I
you
think it
could
was
sell
3
to save
months.
your life.
3 months,
Right.
yeah.
It just, nobody
Yeah.
wanted it. Okay.
And
Now
then
we
we
know
just figured out the
that's
holes. Yeah. And it's not so bad.
awesome. Well, thank you again for sharing your story. I really hope people are as inspired by it as I am, because I do watch. It's so hard. It's heartbreaking would be the way that I look at things for people who choose, because it's all a choice, right? People who choose to stay in the struggle, when I know it didn't take you any more effort to get out of the struggle than how you were feeling staying in the struggle.
It was just a matter of what you're willing to do to change that.
Yeah. So congratulations. I seriously can't wait to see what's next. I can only imagine taking over the branding world. And I'm excited to be a part of it. So thank you for trusting me to be a part of it.
Thank you
Been
so
amazing.
much.
Awesome.